What about you, sir? Do you think the colored students will show up?
If I got anything to do with it, they won't show up. Well, I think it's a breaking point of the school integration. I just don't feel that they have a right to go to school.
The Little Rock Nine were 9 African-American students who were the first blacks to be enrolled in an all-white school in the 1950s. These 9 students were the beginning of integration, which, at the time, was a feat never accomplished by anyone before them. Many obvious dangers laid in their wake in an attempt to dissuade their actions. However, due to the outstanding leadership exhibited by figures such as President Eisenhower and Virgil Blossom, the Little Rock Nine became figureheads whose bravery and perseverance in the face of seemingly impossible challenges would shape society's view on African Americans and whose legacy would morph the future sites of school legislatures, proving to segregationists everywhere that African Americans deserved equality and were prepared to fight for it. During the 1900s, segregation between whites and blacks was a way of life. African Americans could do little to nothing of the same things their white counterparts could. Whether it be going to the same restrooms or eating at the same establishments, all was done separately and normally with less care put into it, especially in schools. A black couldn't attend the same school as a white one, and their education system was far more inferior. In the South, some schools wouldn't even allow black children to use books including the Declaration of Independence or the U.S. Constitution. Doing so might be detrimental to those segregationists who wished to enforce segregation because in them, blacks might find that they are being cheated out of their rights ensured to all U.S. citizens. The segregation of such schools is presumed to have begun with the passage of the Jim Crow laws. Adopting the phrase separate but equal, blacks were alienated from whites in all elements of public life. This, of course, included the separation of the races in schools. Enforced all through the 1800s and up until about halfway through the 1900s, the Jim Crow laws were upheld in Supreme Court cases such as Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896. Jim Crow continued to make its way through daily life, even appearing in modern-day entertainment in the form of blackface, where white men would paint their faces black during performances.
How would you like to go to work for me?
Yes, ma'am. How much you gonna pay me, I hope?
Well, let's see now. I'll pay you all your work.
No, ma'am. I gotta have some money.
Even famous children's icon Bugs Bunny participated in this degrading act. Jim Crow laws, however, were overturned by Brown v. Board of Education, which was argued and re-argued until finally decided in 1954. This case marked the end of segregation in public schools, claiming it to be against the 14th Amendment and the U.S. Constitution to continue the de jure racial segregation in the United States. This victory for the civil rights movement gave African Americans the ability to begin integrating into previously white-only schools.
Major work started to be put into the integration of schools during the 1950s when Virgil Blossom, the school superintendent in Little Rock, Arkansas, developed the gradual plan for the desegregation of schools called the Blossom Plan. This plan would work in 3 phases, first with the integration of one high school, Little Rock Central, in September of 1957, then continuing with the integration of junior high schools in 1960, and finally finishing with there being a limited amount of desegregation in elementary schools. After being approved by the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, in May 24, 1955, 9 black students were chosen to be admitted into Little Rock Central based upon excellence in grades and attendance. These students, given the name the Little Rock Nine, were the first African Americans to integrate into a white school.
We were Terrence Roberts, Jefferson Thomas, Thelma Mothershed, Elizabeth Eckford, Ernest Green, Carlotta Walls, Melba Patillo, Minnie Jean Brown, and Gloria Ray.
Many segregationists opposed the integration and even went so far as to threaten the 9 students with death in order to keep them from entering the school. Governor Orville Faubus, a major supporter of the segregationists, deployed the Arkansas National Guard on the eve of September 4, 1957, to prevent the 9 from entering. Outraged segregationists from all over gathered in mobs on this day to try and run off the 9. The mobs were hostile, lashing out both verbally and physically, going so far as to even beat an African-American reporter from the north there to cover the story. The 9 were unable to enter Little Rock High School due to the soldiers and were forced to turn back, their efforts for the day in vain. Orville Faubus was soon reprimanded for his actions, President Dwight D. Eisenhower even warning Faubus not to defy the Supreme Court's orders. Faubus, however, would not back down. Due to Governor Faubus's obstinacy, Woodrow Wilson Mann, mayor of Little Rock, requested help from President Eisenhower for the needed integration of the Little Rock Nine.
this challenge must be met, and with such measures as will preserve to the people as a whole their lawfully protected rights.
On September 24th, President Eisenhower responded to Mann's request by ordering in the 101st Airborne Division of the U.S. Army into Little Rock to suppress the swelling mobs and enforce both the integration and protection of the Nine. With the help of the 101st Airborne Division, the Little Rock Nine were successfully able to break through the blockade of furious mobs and National Guard soldiers to enter Central High and begin their treacherous journey to integration.
Here on this end that the students are in. Try to turn the camera down that way, Don. Down there. You can see from here some of the action occurring down there.
There are many altercations between the Nine and the white students attending Central High. The mobs also continued to grow, and death threats along with physical abuse became normal. Against all of this, the Nine continued on to finish their first year, and Ernest Green became the first African American ever to graduate from a previously all-white school. Dr. Martin Luther King attended Green's graduation ceremony, and in 1958 the NAACP awarded each of the Little Rock Nine with their highest honor, the Spring Iron Medal. Though the victories for the Nine were on the rise, they were short-lived. Faubus continued refusing to admit defeat and accept the integration. Before the reopening of schools in fall of 1958, Faubus closed down all Little Rock public high schools. This year, known often as the Lost Year, did in fact come to a close in December 1959 when the Supreme Court ruled that the school boards must reopen all previously closed schools and proceed with the desegregation of them. Due to the efforts of the Supreme Court, NAACP, civil rights activists, and above all the Little Rock Nine, schools in the South continued along the path of desegregation. By the time all of the Nine students had moved on from Central High, African Americans in many counties had already begun integrating into various schools that had previously been all white. The Nine even revisited Central High School years after the Little Rock crisis on October 23, 1987, and saw the results of their integration firsthand. Seeing how only after a minute number of years from when the Nine were threatened and abused for even showing their faces in the presence of the segregationist mobs, African Americans freely roaming the halls side by side with whites, was progress made in leaps and bounds. The Little Rock Nine's bravery was recognized by people across the nation. Even figureheads such as President Bill Clinton, who in 1999 honored the Nine by bestowing upon them the highest civilian honor bequeathed by Congress, the Congressional Gold Medal, and President Barack Obama, who on December 9, 2008, invited the Nine to his inauguration, have shown their respects. The Little Rock Nine have been kept fresh in the minds and hearts of people everywhere by various talk shows and movies such as The Nine from Little Rock and the Ernest Green story made in their honor. Reuniting in 1996 on the Oprah Winfrey Show, 7 of the Nine came to face a few of the white students who had tortured them during their time at Central. A more permanent reminder aside from flimsy pictures and outdated films was also created for their bravery. On August 30, 2005, the unveiling of Testament, a bronze statue memorial site on the grounds of Arkansas State Capitol depicting the Little Rock Nine walking into Central High School in 1957, was revealed by none other than the Nine themselves. All of this and more is only a small portion of what the Nine students have left behind. Aside from the medals and interviews, the greatest gift given was one that was given by the 9 courageous African American students in the year 1957. That gift was the beginning of integration and equality for schools across the nation. Without the Little Rock Nine, we as a nation may be no closer to equality for African Americans than we were more than 50 years ago.